Hello, listeners, and welcome to episode 54 of Push to Plat. I want you to take a deep, deep breath. I want you to relax. If you're lying on that bed at the moment, let my voice wash over you calmly and relaxed. Today, we are joined by gamer, somewhat completionist, highly spammer, Seagull, and of course, the wonderful host of the LootBros, ResidentDarrell. How are you both today?
I am great, CJ. How are you?
I am superior.
So listeners, the reason why we started like this, I'm not sure. I think I let Darrell in on the joke. I'm not sure if you...
I don't know what's going on.
I look, I feel relaxed now, though. I'm going to start like that more often. But look, listeners, we had a wonderful review come in on the American, I believe, the American iTunes store or something like this. And it was to the effect of how calming my voice could be. Now, I think somebody's having a little bit of a laugh, but I wanted to extend that. And Darrell, I don't know if you remember, but it was implied that I may be taken into the shower with this person, perhaps even on the bed as well, to relax them.
I think said person's having a good calming wank alongside to your voice.
Look, I hope so. Look, I might join them, when I listen to this in edit, because it's...
Oh, boy. Oh my God!
It's well. Look, you're stuck in your house, Seagull. What are we supposed to do? There's a limit to the fun. In fact, why don't I throw it to you, Seagull? How are you going at the moment in this crisis? What are you? Are you in lockdown? Where are you at?
I think the translation is, "What are you wanking to there, Seagull?"
That's what she said. And
No, look. We'll steer the ship somewhat safe for a second. How are you doing over there?
New York?
Mm.
Oh my God! Don't go into the city. I live outside of the city, about 40 minutes away from Pandemic Central. I'm just going to work, coming back, locking myself in my room, doing my homework, and then playing video games. And then going downstairs, making dinner, coming back up, watching Netflix.
Does it resemble the Division outside? I just keep thinking like it must be just like the real life Division now in New York.
I don't know, but that's where most of it is. I mean, there's a lot in Westchester, but there's more room to go outside and walk where you're not going to bump into a person because it's kind of still a town area.
I mean, surely with the One-Eyed Bandit being on work leave, that place has got to be a dump, just like it is in the Division. I mean, surely nothing's getting clean.
My cousin is literally he lives in Brooklyn, and he's literally right next to one of the hospitals that's housing like thousands of these patients.
Well, look, we've mentioned the bandit, and look, he has been going through a hard time, as we all know. It's important in a crisis to support your friends, I suppose is the word we're looking for there. So I think, and I'd be travesty here if I'm the only one that's going to do this, considering every time Darrell's come on, he's done it. But I do have a drink here, and I do propose a toast to the residents of New York, including the bandit. May they avoid the Division 2 situation, I suppose. May things improve. Our thoughts are with you. So could I get you gentlemen to raise a slurp to this fine corpse?
Oh my God! I can't do it with that cup.
JT, that was the wrong hole, buddy.
I thought the virus had him for a second. We lost him. This could be the first episode of Chronocast.
I was.
And he started with
a water bottle.
Yeah, I like it.
Water bottle.
Now, how are you going, Darrell? You're still alive, I take it. You're still working. Things are normal.
I'm good, man. It's crazy. You mentioned the Division, and one of my co-hosts, T-Bird, and I had a conversation today, I went and picked up a few things from the local Walmart, and bro, it's crazy. They got like all the buggies flipped over and taped off, and they've got all these signs on them. Like, so you can't usually when I go out into a public place, they have the entrance and the exit, and I'm like, you can't put me in a box. I'm going to go in the out. I mean, that's just how it is. And so you can't go in the out anymore because they've got a buggy wall there. And so they've got all these papers on there, these flyers, and it's like, please do not stand within 6 feet of each other, and all this other stuff, man. And they've got like lanes and just trash everywhere, and it's like they've got like these little dispensers for like paper towels and like hand sanitizer, and everyone's wearing masks and gloves.
Toilet paper.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
But it's wild seeing all these people in public wearing masks and gloves, and I'm over here like, this really does look like some of the stuff I've seen in games and movies. It's pretty wild.
It is. It's the same here with Palisades Mall. Crazy.
So I thought, why don't we before we get into it today, like, because I know there are many people in America in lockdown. In Australia, we're not, we're just going to balls to the wall it here. We'll be fine. See what happens. If I'm not here with you next week. I don't know. We're not affected, we're told. We're going to be the only country that isn't somehow. So that's wonderful news for us. But we'll see how that goes in a week or two. But we do have to prepare because, in serious, maybe one day we will be in lockdown when there's a couple of people left alive, I suppose. So what I thought we could have a look at is, do you guys have any suggestions for passing the time? Like, I know we've got games and things, but is there something else? Is there a project? Is there something you're going to undertake in this time if you are sort of locked in, or something we could share with the listeners to inspire them, perhaps, to take something else up? What do you think, JT? Is there something?
Yeah. Anybody like to paint miniatures? That's a good thing to pass the time. Good thing to do. Like Warhammer 40K, stuff like that.
Yeah, I like that. Darrell, what do you reckon?
Been doing some card games with the wife and kids. I've got some music projects. We had our little VH1 episode a few months back. And so one of our busier members, he's had a really hard time slowing down because he travels and tours in a different, in another band. And it's kind of hard to nail him down to get his stuff done. And so since he's grounded right now, he's been pumping out, drum tracks. So I've got quite the backlog of just of editing and guitar work I have to lay down, and we've got multiple songs recorded, and it's been cool. I've got tons to do. I've got projects around the house. I mean, and unfortunately, you're talking about how Australia's not in quarantine. We're technically supposed to be seeking shelter, or whatever they call it, shelter in place. I think it's the order that we have. And they've shut down all the non-essential businesses and things like that here over in South Carolina, where I'm at.
They did in New York too.
But see, I work for a manufacturing company. We build competition weightlifting equipment for schools and NFL teams and college football teams, stuff like that. We're college athletes in general. So, we're like, this is our busy time of the year, and we're like, oh no, what are we going to do? And then all of a sudden, they close down all the gyms in the States. So everyone is buying home gym equipment. So we just moved right on over, and instead of building our heavy duty competition stuff, we just started building home gym stuff. So we're busier than we've ever been in 25 years. Like, it is absurd. I mean, everyone's buying weight benches and racks and things like that for their houses. So I'm not really getting to experience the outside of going into like a grocery store and seeing everyone in their hazmat outfits. For me, it's work and home, business as usual. It's been pretty wild. A good bit of overtime as well.
Gotta cash in that money.
Yeah, I was going to say that's great for the business then as well.
Oh yeah,
especially since you're a family man.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if either of you have come across this, or maybe you don't have time yet, Darrell, by the sound of it. But one of the things that started up here last weekend, which is awesome, because obviously, as you said, like, gig musicians and live musicians, there's really nothing to do at the moment. There's nowhere to play gigs. And last Saturday here in Australia, from sort of midday through to, like, I think it was 2 a.m. or something, a lot of like quite well known, relatively well known, gig sort of musicians in Australia. They just did like 20-minute sets in their own house, which you could log into. It was actually free. It was all streamed and stuff, which is like awesome, so you could still, you had a bit of, I mean, it's not the same as being in the club or whatever, but it's still a pretty cool thing. So I'm sure there's stuff like that in America happening as well.
Was it like a Twitch stream?
Yeah, they were doing it over YouTube and stuff, actually, this one. But I think it's going to become a regular thing. I don't know if they're going to do it every week, but it's a different lineup, of like pub bands and stuff like that. So it's great. Gives them somewhere to play and an audience as well. And, just gives you something to do.
You know what's crazy, CJ, is our vocalist and I had a conversation this morning. And I've been pitching to my guys for years because, I told you before, we quit traveling because we all started having kids and it got really difficult to manage working full time, traveling, playing music with young babies and stuff. And so, we had quit doing music. And I told the guys years ago, I said, man, we really need to live stream our stuff. I said, no band is doing that. I said, we could sit there because this is right about the time that Justin TV was a thing. And, and Twitch wasn't even a thing really yet. And then YouTube didn't stream, but you see what I'm saying? Like that time frame. And I told my guys, like, hey, we should really get into this and like stream our practices, because one of the things that we did a lot was we would let like people who listen to our music and come to our shows, we'd let them come to our practices. We rented a storage unit downtown and several other bands rented them as well. So what we would do is in between sets, we'd all, in between practices and rehearsals, we'd go check out the other bands and they would do the same for us. And then all of our fans that would come and join, would all kind of hang out and stuff. And it'd be like little mini concerts just during rehearsal. So I told the guys, I said, when streaming started to become a thing, I said, I'm telling you, this is the future. We should get on this. Well, no one really took me serious. And about that time, we had started doing these acoustic gigs and traveling around and just playing acoustic guitar and doing a little singing. And I'm like, I'm telling you guys, this is where it's at. So fast forward, I think 6-8 years now, my vocalist walks up to me this morning at the shop and he goes, hey man, every time you pitch an idea to us and we shoot it down, it becomes a thing. And years before that, it was rock music and dubstep, like rock and EDM music together. I was like, I like both of those genres. I said, we gotta do some rock and EDM. I'm telling you, that's the future. And then all these bands came out and started doing it. And then I was like streaming. So they're like, you got any more of those ideas? I was like, we got all this.
Now they're gonna accept them,
and they're not gonna work.
Yeah,
because like they're ideas that just happen in the future.
Yeah. I pitched one to them. We'll see what happens.
I enjoy your music, Darrell. I do listen to it. I'm very big into like the metal screamo type of stuff.
Me too.
I like punk rock, stuff like that.
I think there's going to be a lot of these things come out of this, which, a lot of this, I think 2 weeks ago here, I'm sure there were many people that didn't even know what Twitch was or streaming and stuff. And now they've become, or even Skype, or Zoom, which is the big thing now.
Yeah.
And, they're becoming masters of it, which is great. But one of the things because we were looking for something to do together, Darrell, because we don't do a lot together, so we thought it might be nice now we're trapped in this house to do something together. And so a friend recommended online yoga, because of course some things have closed here, and yoga is one of the things that's closed. So you can do this online yoga, and of course now they're offering, and I'm sure this is nothing new in America because you're more advanced in this area, but now you can do like online dancing, you can do online yoga, you can even do your fitness classes online now or whatever, which is great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we've been doing, charting for quite some time on a Sunday afternoon, but, there's a limit to the amount of time you can do that during the week with the rawness. But spreading it around with these other activities is fantastic, I can tell you. So, I definitely reach out. If you're getting bored of the gaming, then there's more than Netflix as well. There's a lot of this other stuff, but we should direct it somewhat towards gaming. And we had this question come in. As I said, I fleeced your community here, Darrell, to get this question. So, and I apologize, but I shouldn't have, apparently.
No, I told you that in the thing. You're always welcome, bro.
But the funny thing, we got this question. It's actually quite good for Seagull. It might be good for you too. I don't know if you've played this series or not, but we're about to find out. This comes from a Patreon supporter, Levi Thomas. Now, he says here, JT, so I'm going to throw this to you first.
Okay.
Can one claim the title gamer having never experienced the Mass Effect trilogy. What do you think?
Yes.
That was a very hesitant yes.
Well, the whole thing is that I am a huge fan of it, but I'm not like super obsessed with it. Like the moment I 100% these games, I'm done with them. I'm not playing them again. But he's gonna play them again. Like he's even stated that he's gonna play them again. But I don't think that a gamer has to play Mass Effect 3 or Mass Effect in general. Do I recommend it? Yeah, I do. The franchise as a whole is really good. I'd even recommend Andromeda, even though it's pretty, it's the worst of them all. I still recommend it because they fixed a lot of the bugs and problems and issues that it had. And the only scary thing is the woman smiles, like the woman facial animations, like those freak me out. Yeah, although they're freaky, man. Like they're so freaky. You do the Paramore trophy, you're gonna be in for a freaky time. Paramore is the make love trophy.
In Andromeda, yeah. What do you think, Daryl? Do you have experience with this series?
Well, yeah, actually, I own all the games, and I own them physical and
You own everything.
well, I try. But my experience with Mass Effect was I actually was playing it on Xbox 360, and I had like a game breaking bug.
Yeah,
I was playing the first Mass Effect, and there's like there was a section of the game where like I had like this little indicator that kept telling me where to go, but the indicator like dead ended me at some wall.
Yeah.
And no matter what I did, I couldn't I restarted it. I like turned it off, turned it back on, did all this stuff, and it was like something was bugged in my save file. And after I don't know, I can't remember now. I've told the story so many times, so I want to say around 8 hours of game time or something like that. I was like, I'm not doing that again. And it wasn't like it was the most magnificent gaming experience I had ever had. I was like, this is a lot of dialogue and it's very slow.
Oh yeah, the first one is like that.
But the worst part is this is like each Mass Effect game rewards you with trophies and achievements based on playing the one previous, like importing your character. So for example, on Xbox 360, it was a 75-point achievement to import your Mass Effect 1 character in your story into Mass Effect 2, and then also from 2 to 3. And so I was like, when I saw that, I'm like, well, I'm not going to load this game and start one when I hadn't finished the first one because then I'm not going to get that achievement. And it was one of those things where, but I was like, man, I'm not going to sit here and like waste my time, and right, wrong, or indifferent. I let those achievements and those trophies stop me from moving forward in the series. And I hear that Mass Effect 2 and 3 are better than 1.
They are.
But 1 was enough, and I don't like if I'm playing a game and my save file corrupts or busts or something happens and I got to start over. I know I'm not doing it. And this one was one of those situations where I'm not going to start a series over that started. I don't know. It just was kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And even though I still own the games, I've never looked back.
The trophies you're talking about, you either have to complete the game twice or import the save. So you did not have to import the save.
Oh, well, there's that.
I have a question for you because this is an older game, particularly Mass Effect 1. So, Seagull, so you've played these more recently then, but you played them as well, Daryl. Does this game hold up, though? Can you really play it now, or do you really feel its age?
I don't think so. The games are... Mass Effect 1 in particular is very laggy. The frame rates are crap. Especially on the PlayStation 3. It runs like trash.
And that one came out later than the original because the original released on 360 first.
Yeah, like the whole trilogy freezes up and everything. So like it does not age well. You're not playing this game for the gameplay. You're playing it for the wonderful story. That's what you're playing it for. But it does not age well.
So wait, you're not playing it for trophies and achievements? Because I thought that's the only reason we play games.
Well, that's why I'm playing them.
Okay.
Somebody playing for fun.
I mean, honestly, if I didn't like the game, I would just keep it at like probably 5%.
That's my territory right there.
But I don't. I quite enjoy the Mass Effect series. I just think that the gameplay is very dated.
Yeah. Look, I think that's a good answer. I'm sorry, I really can't add anything to the conversation there, Levi, because I haven't played either of the games. I mean, to claim anyone's a gamer is a stretch, you included, sir. So I'm interested that you would word the question in such a way as this. But if it is a dig slightly at me, then of course I don't see myself as a gamer. I just see myself as something, around gamers. I think, this spam hunter or whatever else, I
A
suppose.
god
So
amongst men.
look, I don't know. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. The funny thing is, I did, and we'll get into this topic I think later today with when we get there. But I did actually pick up Andromeda. I have it here, Seagull, and I was thinking about it. So I'm definitely not going to go back to 1, 2, or 3, but I may consider that.
I mean, you don't have to play it. You don't have to play those 3 to play that.
Oh, I thought you were going to say I don't need to play Andromeda. I could just keep holding it and then put it down.
That's what I'm doing.
You really don't need to play it though. Like that's probably the worst one of them all.
So that's the one that I should play because I have this knack for loving what everyone hates.
You and me both.
So,
we both love Call of Duty Ghost.
There you go.
There you go.
We both have the plat.
Why don't we move across then to some games, Seagull? So it's been a while since you've been with us. I know you have a tendency to run the whole catalog at me, which look I appreciate because I'm across it as well. But let's limit you to the last week or so, if that's possible, or last couple of weeks. What have you been playing?
In March, because that's
yeah, of course.
I got 5 stacks of Gravity Duck, 6 stacks of Mecha Vault, and then I got the Platinum for Uncharted 4. And then I got a few trophies in Final Fantasy 12. I'm working on the story for that. It's good so far. I like it.
Well, just before we go on, I'm gonna it's wonderful to see the spam. I love people that do it in order as well, like that. It just shows a complete oversupply of time and nothing else to do. So that's wonderful. And Uncharted 4, look, I don't really know a lot about this game. The trophy requirements, I've played it, obviously I thought it was great, but I'm going to ask you here, because I know we talked a little pre-show about Final Fantasy 12. Now, you did start this some time ago and you're coming back to it now. Why are you coming back to it now? And are you enjoying it more?
Well, when I started it, I had done 4 Final Fantasies in a row. So I had to take the break. It was mind-numbing. No, it was 3. I did Final Fantasy Lightning Returns, Type 0, and Final Fantasy 15.
Okay.
All in one go. So then I was like, I had this really dumb idea to go, since I was on a roll, I was like, I might as well just start Final Fantasy 12. But it didn't stick because I got burnt out on Final Fantasy.
Now I got a question. I love Final Fantasy games, but I also just don't have the time.
All right.
And I played several of them when I was younger and I had more time to spend. Which one of the Final Fantasy games plays itself? Because that's the one I need to be playing.
Comes with a skip button.
I'm sure one day, they will make some sort of episodic, Telltale-esque Life is Strange Final Fantasy, because it's Square Enix.
Yeah.
And they also published Life is Strange, so why not?
Real talk though, which one can I play and play my Vita at the same time? Is that possible?
Well, do you have a PlayStation TV?
Of course.
Do you have a turbo boosted controller?
I actually don't.
All right, because what you can do is you can turbo boost all your jank. Turbo controllers are really good for trophy hunters because you could autopilot some of the easiest trophies there ever were, especially Japanese visual novels.
Yeah, I think Seagull's probably right. They are sort of hands-on games, but Darrell, they're probably the ones that I've played now, 15, 14, 12, they're the most hands-off, hands-on games I think I've played. So you do need...
Yeah, a lot of grinding.
Yeah, there is a lot of grinding.
It's kind of mindless.
Yeah, I mean, for 12, the solid strategy for 12 is probably to leave your system running for 30 hours. And you actually don't even need a turbo controller the way the system works, just with a regular controller to level you. So, and not actually, and then come back and play later. But I'm thinking with 15, there's no real XP boost like that in the game. And then with
No.
14, I mean, 14, they've very cleverly done it so that they fucked you. So you actually have to hit the tree thousands of times in the mine. You can't actually get that turbo controller to do it for you. So the minds behind that one were, that was a great job, guys. But I do like that idea, Seagull. Could you imagine a Telltale, Final Fantasy 14 series? You're like episodes 30 through 50, mine this tree. You just stand there whacking. Episodes
350 hours of just dialogue.
That's right. Yeah, it'd be fantastic. Well, I think if you did lift out all the cutscenes, it probably would be. I mean, I don't know how many hours it would be. It would be a lot, maybe 60, 70, 80 hours. It's
Yeah,
a lot.
it'd be a pretty epic Telltale game.
It really would be. It would be. Luckily, they didn't take that license.
I also got Metagal, which is Mega Man's discount little sister.
Yes. Now, does this have the Mega Mind in it as well? This game?
That was so funny.
No, it does not. But
So, in your opinion, Seagull, they're definitely different characters, aren't they? The Mega Man and the Mega Mind.
I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe there's some Illuminati BS going on.
There could be. There could be. There could be. Now, I'm wondering, are you going to look at the Metagal, the Japanese Vita stack here? Because this is the one that actually has the full list that requires you to play the whole game.
Not now.
Not ever.
I'm going to be honest. I didn't like Metagal.
No, I don't blame you.
And then, of course, I played a lot of Mass Effect 3, and I'm still working on Mass Effect 3.
Yeah, it's good. Some big games there. Okay. Now, Darrell, why don't we go across to you? I'm always interested to see the eclectic mix of garbage that you have on your profile. Now, what and look, I'm not disappointed. NASCAR Heat 3, 1 trophy, look, that's fantastic. But look, I'm going to throw it to you because there's some interesting stuff here. Fantastic.
Yeah, there's a point in time where I go, I'm going to complete a bunch of games. And then I'm like, no, I'm just going to start a bunch of games. So I'll pull out, just some of the premium titles that I've been messing with. So for starters, we'll say NASCAR Heat 3. Really, so when I listen to your show, CJ, I like you play so many racing games. And I'll listen to the show and I'm like, man, I need to play a good racing game. Like I'm completely influenced instantly. I was like, oh man, gotta play a racing game. So then I was like, I haven't played a good NASCAR game in years. So I went on PlayStation Now and I downloaded NASCAR Heat 3 and I played through some of the dirt races. Yeah. And I was like, man, I'm not really digging the dirt races. I'm ready to get to like the regular track. But that's not even the best part of the game. The best part of the game is when I created my character. I don't know if you ever heard of the TV show Eastbound and Down.
No.
So in my shop, everyone talks about Eastbound and Down. And it's this guy named Kenny Powers, who's this fat redneck with a mullet, not Tiger King. All right. This is like if Tiger King had like a mean older brother that played professional baseball, that's what Kenny Powers is. And he's so confident and he is such a douche. So I watched the first episode of Eastbound and Down, and this dude is vulgar and really funny. So the next morning I play NASCAR Heat and I created Kenny Powers as my NASCAR driver. Made me a fat NASCAR driver with a mullet. So I played a little bit of NASCAR, and I plan on kind of going back to it every so often. The next thing on my list that I'm super
Just before you go on, though, because I was getting a little bit nervous when you were making that analogy, because I thought you were going to turn around on me and say this was a garbage choice, garbage selection. But with these NASCAR games, the first and the second one, because they're a carbon copy every year, basically, 1 through 4.
Yeah.
But the first and the second one didn't really have the dirt racing. It did start on the track. So I found those a little bit better. But, listeners, if you are looking at this series, where this series shines is if you use a racing wheel, because most of the racing games that I play, maybe except for the Formula 1 games, which I don't partake in, the the use of a wheel, it doesn't really necessarily even help you, and also the force feedback, it's not very well done. But in these games in particular, you can really feel the grooves on the track. And again, probably depends slightly on the wheel, but I'm just using a very average one, not a great one. And when you hit, especially on those banked NASCAR tracks, when you hit the groove, it almost rips the wheel out of your hand. And it's the only game that I've found that does that. So I'm not sure how it plays on a controller, maybe, and also on the dirt, but on those 1 and 2 games with the track and a wheel, it is quite fantastic. But
Yep.
so I'm just justifying my position.
No, you're good. The game's not bad. I don't think it was a bad recommendation. Well, actually, you didn't specifically say play that one. That's just the one I chose. But
Yeah.
the next one on my list that I would be the most proud to share would be a PlayStation 3 title called Eat Lead: The Return of Matt Hazard.
You're really going to town on this one.
I don't know if you're familiar with this
No.
game.
I am.
Okay, so it's a third-person shooter, and it was made around the 2009, 2012 time or whatever, when all of these really bad third-person shooters were coming out. And this one's kind of like a parody of third-person shooters. So you are Matt Hazard, who's kind of like like an 80s action star, but for video games. And you're essentially in a video game trying to figure out who's trying to kill you, remove you from gaming, and remove your legacy or whatever, because you're basically like a burnout video game star. And your enemy types range from zombies to Russian guys to dudes in Nerf outfits with squirt guns. I mean, it's got really bad one-liners, really crappy quick time events with the bosses. It's a B movie game. It's terrible, but yet it's got enough charm to keep me going. And I don't know that I'm going to go for the platinum because I got to beat it on the hardest difficulty.
It doesn't look that difficult though.
It's not so much that I think it's going to be difficult. It's that it's frustrating to play because
come on, don't be a tricky.
The running and shooting is just not good. Like it's not that it's hard. It's just that it's not like it's at its best when you're not shooting. Like if I just throw a power up on and run and punch a dude to death, like that's when the game's the best. And it's got really janky melee combat. But either way, I'm having a good time. It's one of the games that I started years ago on Xbox 360 and never finished. So it's on PS now. So I get up in the mornings and I play a little bit of Eat Lead to get my day started.
That's fantastic. You know what I love about this game? I've seen this, maybe we've talked loosely about this before, or it's come up before, because this trophy list looks familiar, but I love a game that trolls you. Most games troll me because of my ability, but ones that really troll you. And I'm looking here at the difficulty trophy. So the complete the game on mine has a difficulty setting here, hazard avoider. And then it says the description is sure you won. My grandmother could win on easy. But then the next difficulty says, well, at least she didn't have it set to easy.
Yeah.
Oh, I would play it just for that trophy. That is fantastic.
It's good, man. And see, that's the thing. That's the charm, is that this game is very self-aware and it's making fun of what it is.
Yeah.
So it's good. I mean, I'm enjoying it. The next game I would like to throw out there, and I'm going to bring this one up simply just because I've heard you talk about it and you threw a little shade towards my show about this game, is that Twin Breaker, a Sacred Symbols adventure. Like I said on my show, I like it. It's a fun game to play, but that dialogue does literally nothing for me. Like all of that writing and all that.
Did you read it all?
I mean, I probably read the first 10%, maybe. It just, I really expected, I don't know. I expected something different. I really expected it to have more to do with the actual show and the characters and like Colin Moriarty. I expected there to be some digs at the internet for the way he's been treated and maybe even some of his old, coworkers and friends and stuff like that, And it's just this completely random sci-fi adventure that has nothing to do with anything. And it was just boring. Like it just didn't do anything for me, Like it had its own lore and it was just like, oh, okay, cool. But I'm not interested.
No, I did say I quite enjoyed the gameplay elements of it. I thought that
Yes.
was fun. It's a funny game because we've got to be careful here because we don't want to bring down the internet upon our heads here. But the I mean, East Asia's often known for making a sort of a 2 hour game or something, that's sort of self-contained, is sort of these pixelated graphics and stuff like this, and for what they make, it's quite good. It's quite enjoyable experiences, and it almost feels like to me this game was made and then they sort of they branded it over the top. Like, yes, he wrote the story for it, but the if you take the story out, I mean, it could be anybody's game, and I think that's what you're alluding to. The gameplay doesn't really have any relationship to the show or anything like that, which I thought is found surprising as well, I think. And like, I thought it was good that he took an upper path, because I think a lot of the time he doesn't on social media. So I thought that was interesting too. But yeah, it almost felt like the story and the game were almost independent. They could have been interchanged. And I mean, it was lovely to have a story in this. I mean, the Bricks games don't have one, but yeah, I don't know that it tied too closely to it.
And I think it was an expectation thing, because one of the things I've always liked about him as a personality and as a host is that he seems very honest, and he seems very
Tom Moriarty.
yeah, and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I,
he's my favorite.
he's good, and I've always enjoyed his content. I've always followed the shows he's been a part of, and I've always thought he was the better part of those things. And then I expected, he's a really intelligent guy, I thought he was going to do something really clever, and I started reading it and I was like, oh, okay. He said it was his first piece of fiction. It's definitely that, so, and I'm not knocking it. I don't think it's bad. It just didn't work for me.
No, I think look, I tend to agree with you as well, because I think he's a very highly analytical person from the stuff that I've read and listened to from him, and I think
He
that,
is
I mean,
that.
this is their first game. Yeah, this is their first game, so there's a teething period, I suppose, as well. So I think for that aspect, it's very good. But it just did strike me as a game that was already made, or the shell was made, and then they threw the logo over the top, which I don't have a problem with, because I'm surprised more of this doesn't happen, actually, especially with the like Ratalaika. They're just porting other people's games, but there's a real market there for them just to start creating the generic game and then getting some big name or even a product behind it, and just almost like a placement game. But maybe that will happen in the future. I'm not sure. But are you going to talk about this 200th platinum game? I'm hoping you are.
My Batman Arkham Knight.
Yes.
Is that going
Yes.
to be your 200th platinum?
Yeah. So originally I wanted to do Resident Evil 2, just because the number 200, it'd be cool. And then I don't know, like, I always try to think about everything I do. I try to give my audience an opportunity to participate, and like, we don't have the biggest, listenership as far as the podcast goes, but I do feel like that our interaction with our listeners is
It's
very,
top notch.
it's very genuine, and it's very, like, we're constantly going back and forth and talking with the guys and cutting up with everybody. And I try to incorporate as many questions and all the feedback into our show. And I was like, I'm going to do
Well, hang
200.
on a second.
Me as a listener, I have to say you do your job. You do your podcast does the best job at that.
Yeah, I would agree. You have a good listenership. I mean, my mother listens to us, so we're doing okay as well. But we're aspiring to you. But sorry, carry on.
No, I was just saying, like, I don't know that my listeners understand how much I think about them, and I don't mean that in a weird way. Like, I always think about, like, what's the next thing I can do to get them involved, or what's the next thing I can do? Because, like, I've written into shows that I really adore and have gotten zero response back. I've written into shows that I think are fantastic, and they've emailed me back and said, "Yeah, we're going to use your feedback, or we're going to use your question," and then they don't. And so I've sat back and going, well, I'm not going to be that guy for sure. But I also like to think about, like, we're a generic video game podcast. So what is it that makes us stand out? I'm like, well, if it's nothing else, if it's not the wiener and fart jokes, it's got to be, the fact that we just interact with our fans, our listeners, our friends. And it's like, hey, I like to include them in everything. So I say all that to say this. I was going to just do Resident Evil 2. It's like, boom, that's going to be my milestone platinum. I've been putting off playing it and platinum it. I'm going to do it. And then I was like, right before I was at 198 platinums. I was like, okay, before I go and burn through a bunch of this spam stuff I got to get to to ready to do 200, I put a poll out in my Facebook group, and everyone voted on Batman Arkham Knight, which was very surprising. I didn't see that one coming at all, but I'm like, hey, I love Batman, so
It's a really great game. I
it
think
really
I
is.
voted for that one too. I'm not sure.
So, which I think is a great choice. I'm like, you know what? That's cool. I love this game, and I'm pretty far, as far as like my completion rate goes. I'm 75-ish% through the trophy list. I'm like, that's not too bad. So yeah, so it's funny. And CJ, I know you tried to join me the other night, but I was like, you know what? We got this streaming event coming up. We want to do. I was like, I'll stream some Batman. And I know that like internet has been real spotty lately, and especially at like upstairs in my house, it's not great. But dude, I started streaming and like my stream kept dropping. One of my kids signed me out in the in the middle of my stream. I was like, this literally never happened. And then I had like 11 people was the max I had in my stream, right? I'm like, okay, we got 11 people, we got some traction. I finally figured out how to drive the Batmobiles, like the old ones in the game. I was doing these challenges, but I was like really, really sucking at them. And then like I was sucking at them. So then I kind of leaned into it and like sucked even worse for fun, and it was bad, but it was fun. I'm having a blast. And then all of a sudden my internet just dies.
Oh, that's the worst.
It just did, just cold kicked me off, and I couldn't stream anymore. I was like, well, there's that. Boy, I look like a friggin' professional. But I did manage to pop a trophy the other night on the stream. I'm having fun with it. I'm doing the challenges on Batman Arkham Knight. Batman vs Superman is my favorite superhero movie of all time, so I'm doing everything in the Batfleck suit. So I'm having a blast.
Question: How is how are the challenges in this one? How are you finding them?
I mean, because it's been several months since I've played the game, I'm a little rusty, so like they're kind of difficult right now, but I went into the challenges like kind of on purpose. I was like, well, I'll just kind of get in there and knock the dust off and kind of rough it a little bit because I have to do a new game plus. Yeah, I mean they're better than the first one. I think they're a little more forgiving, and there's so many of them. Like you only need a certain amount of actual stars for getting your challenges. So you can do that. Let's say there's certain challenges you're not as good at. You can kind of fudge it a little bit and do some of the other ones.
Good to know.
Especially because there's just so much DLC with this game. You have options.
Well, what interests me in this game, and I was just checking there, but you haven't got that trophy yet, so I'm not sure how far along you are, but there's an obscene number of collectibles in this game, isn't there, tied to the Riddler trophy? Is that right?
Yes.
Am I thinking?
It's like 225 of them or something like that.
Yeah. So is that as monotonous as it sounds?
It really is. That's probably the worst part of all the Arkham games. Like they're fantastic games, and I feel like they get better with every entry. Arkham Asylum's good. Arkham City's good. I feel like Arkham Knight is kind of the best of the three. But man, these Riddler trophies, they're everywhere, and you have to solve puzzles to get them. So it's not just like, oh, you go and find them. Like sometimes it's, yeah, you find it, but it's in a cage, and you gotta like electrocute this one thing and jump and parkour and climb and to get to it a certain amount of time, or you have to use a certain gadget that you have to unlock later in the game to slow motion control your batarang to get it. And it's just, I don't know, man. Like some of that stuff is kind of like ridiculous, but I get it. The thing that makes it worth it, Rocksteady pulled so much into Batman lore. Like there's so much fan service in this game that it's so fun to play. And the Joker in this game is absolutely hilarious. Like your interactions with him are it's so good. So one of the trophies in this game is actually doing a new game plus, and that's actually the one that I want to end with. I want to do that last because I want to go through the game again and go through the story and just really enjoy it one last time. I don't want my last trophy to be like a stupid challenge mode. I want to actually like play through the game one final time to get the platinum and enjoy it. So it's a great game. I highly recommend it.
Anything else you'd like to throw out there?
I think that's pretty good. I mean, like as far as kind of jumping PS3, PS4, PS Vita, now a little PSVR. Me and the kids really enjoy the Vacation Simulator, and we already got the platinum in Job Simulator. So it's a fun game. It's really good. It's really goofy. Real, just so it's a good time.
Okay, I've got a hot tip for you on a VR game as well. I haven't tried it, but this game called Paper Beasts. I think your kids will love it. It's supposed to be it's a bit of a walking sim in VR, but it's supposed to look amazing in VR. So that might be something to look out for if you play it. You can let me know. Paper
Heck
Beasts.
yeah.
Yeah, but so listeners, what can I throw out? Well, I haven't had much time this week, but it was funny listening to you talk there, and then I thought, well, I actually played a Darrell game a week or so ago, but I didn't talk about it because it was it was completely glitched. At the end of the third level, you couldn't pass. You just ran into a wall and you couldn't go any further. So, but I just noticed they have patched it the other day, and it now looks like people are getting the platinum. So I will talk a little about it. And this is the famous finger shooter game, Freedom Finger. Now, don't you may never have heard of this game, but it might have disappeared on the store. It's a cheaper a sort of game, but it's got an amazing voice acting cast. It's got Nolan North. It's got I don't know the names of the other people. It shows what they've done other games, and they're all it's all very high level or whatever. And it literally is that you play as a hand with a pointed out finger, and you shoot out of it, and it's a side scroller, a shooter if you like in space. And I played a bit of it. What the catch of this game, Darrell and Seagull, is that every level is set to a music track. Now, it's not really a rhythm game though. The music track is just there. Now, a lot of the tracks are sort of the ones that I played so far. There's a mix of heavy metal and a bit of electronica as well. But I think it covers all sort of almost all sorts of music as well. So it's actually pretty cool. And it's a really weird game. I imagine the plat will be difficult, but in the setup of the game, you can actually basically play it on no death mode as well. So if you just want to, enjoy the music and just sort of chill out or whatever, you can. Now, it also has an insane story going on as well in America and Russia, race to the moon situation and all this insaneness. But I mean, the whole game is insane too, because you really only have three moves: the finger shooting, the finger grabbing, and then the finger fisting, where you just fist right up there to kill the enemies. And that is, I'm not joking with you. And they really play that up in the humor as well, I can tell you. So
Dude, that's awesome.
I'll throw that out there because it is plattable now. So I feel more comfortable with that. And then look, I don't know if either of you saw this FMV. I'm not sure if this genre really interests you or not, the movie game genre, if you like,
Yes.
and the complex.
Uh,
Yeah. So this is by the people that did the Bunker. I don't know. Did you play that, either of you? Or
Yeah, I got the platinum in the bunker.
I played it on my old account.
yeah. So you're familiar with them. It's not as there's sort of two companies doing these games or whatever. This is the more serious company. The other one that did the shape shifting detective, they tend to play into it a bit. They really ham up the B grade nature of it. This is much more serious. I think it's actually good. The acting is good. The story is lost on me, I think, although it's quite relevant. It's about a virus that could potentially get out of a lab and kill
Huh.
everybody. So yes, in London, but it's good. It's very short. I would say a playthrough is maybe just over an hour, if that. So even for an FMV, that is short. It does have 9 different endings, although I don't know how much variation there is, but it does come with a skip. So if you've already played that scene, you can skip it. So I know a lot of people that play these games, getting the plat is obnoxious because you have to sit through the game, but not the case in this one. So it's fine for what it is. I think it's only about $10 US or something. So they're not bending you over here for what it is. The last one I'll throw out here is, of course. Now I don't know if either of you know about this game or not, but I've been highly anticipating it, and with the massive push of games, we hear today that Last of Us 2 is gone. It's not happening at the moment, and
Oh boy.
whatever else. It's a very sad time. Very sad time. But there are still games coming, and in fact this week the Snakeybus came. And I'm thinking, Daryl, when I say Snakeybus, what do you
I'm
think?
thinking a bus that gets bigger and bigger and slithers around like a snake.
And what more could you want? Is what I would ask you, listeners. It's the perfect.
Literally nothing.
No, it's right. It's the perfect concept. And it's the perfect trophy list too, because you can just mindlessly, play with your Snakeybus as it engorges itself across the map, and you're just, if you die, you just reset, and you're just building a score to unlock different buses and levels. So, if you die straight away, it doesn't really matter because it's all progressive. You just keep playing. Obviously, the longer you run, the quicker the game will be. I understand it's about an hour plat in that range. There is one trophy which is bullshit, but we've all come to expect that of these sort of games. Sneaky Bus is no different, and it's to make the bus get to 420 meters, which is an impressive
Oh,
length. If you can handle that, you know what you're doing. You're experienced. And that's it's difficult to handle because it's crisscrossing everywhere. You can jump over it and stuff. So it's basically Snake as a bus, I suppose. Snake's in the bus, but it's fun. I enjoyed it, and look, I literally played it for maybe 10 minutes before we started and got half the trophies. So it's going to be very quick, with the exception, I think, of that one trophy.
it's always that one trophy.
Oh, look, see, there really is Seagull, but that's the test. It's the test of your spammy quality. We us non-real gamers, as Levi likes to suggest there, gently. We need to have some sort of claim to fame, and these bullshit trophies are all we have.
Yeah, the
These-
the the gamers that get 6 stacks of every single region and all the Japanese visual novels. Us gamers, non-gamers.
Yeah, well, it shows you're building up a skill though, and so I like it when that skill's respected in a game like Snaky Bus. So I think that's a good move by the developers. And then I wasn't going to mention it, but look, why not? Because I know that nobody that listens to this really cares about this anymore. But it's
Oh boy.
compulsory. This is, do you know what it is, Seagull? It's more Final Fantasy. It's the Final Fantasy 14. I finally logged back in because when the subscription's
No,
running.
that's good.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
do
yeah.
that with MMOs all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the great thing about I haven't gone back to it since I finished Shadowbringers, so like a good number of months, and I know that there was some free content dropping, but there's actually been 2 patches in that time, so there's sort of 20 or so new story missions and some dungeons to do, which is great. And Final Fantasy 14, the missions aren't like, well, I mean they vary, but some of them it'll take a couple of hours to do, probably 4 hours to do all 20 of them, so it's a sizable amount, but I was enjoying it. And one of the great things, Seagull, is that, again, it's free content or whatever at the end of the game, but there's the number of fully voiced cutscenes. And in fact, there's one in there where they give you the Final Fantasy warning that, you should set aside time now to watch this because a series of cutscenes
Yeah,
is going to play.
yeah. The
Mm.
cutscenes, they're extremely long.
Terrifying when you get that warning, Daryl, because you're basically like, shit, I could be here for 3 hours. Like, you never know.
It's like a Kojima game.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the cutscene at the end of the base game into the first expansion warns you like that, and it goes for an hour and 20 minutes. So you do
Oh
need to
my
be
god.
prepared. This isn't too bad, but it was a good 20 minutes or so of dialogue, all voiced. And I mean, I understand it's a subscription game, so they're making money here. It's not technically free, but it's great that they're still
Wait, is that just a patch? It's not an expansion? Because like,
no, just a patch. Yeah.
oh my god.
Mm, mm. I
You
know.
know, I may just drop World of Warcraft and just go straight to this because, like, Jesus,
It's an
that just
amazing
sounds
game.
more like my thing.
Yeah, I think it depends. Like, I mean, if you're more into the story, I think the story in 14 is fantastic. And the last expansion was supposed to be the final expansion, but the game is a cash cow to print money. Why would you stop? So they've already announced there will be 2 further expansions over the coming
They
years.
gotta
And
compete with World of Warcraft.
yeah, but I mean, they're onto something, definitely. And they just keep giving out, I think about 4 times a year, they give out these free content patches of, a good couple of hours of story in each one. And, as I said,
Yeah,
new
no,
dungeons.
that's and they probably give you an end game raid as well
Yes,
in each
yeah, there
of them.
was actually a Nia raid for this current one, which I haven't done yet, but I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to
no,
to trying.
all MMOs do this.
Yes, yeah.
They give like 4 or 5 patches every
Mm,
expansion, and then the expansion hits.
mm, mm,
But the new
mm.
expansion hits after that those 4 to 5 patches.
Yeah, yeah. So there's plenty of content, but Daryl's now contemplating the fact that he won't get here for another 25 years when his youngest finally leaves the house. So, so we won't drag on what it looks like on the other side. But let's move to some new releases, and I want to start with you, Daryl, because I know you're highly anticipating this Resident Evil 3. It looks like you got a massive box of goodies there as well when it came in. Would you like to talk to our listeners about this a bit?
Yeah, so back in 1999, the original Resident Evil 3 released on the PlayStation 1 console. After the success of Resident Evil 2 remake last year, Capcom announced that they're going to do Resident Evil 3 remake. So I got the collector's edition. It comes with a 12-inch Jill Valentine statue, a really cool special box that's designed to be like the item crate in the Resident Evil games. It came with a really cool art book, a map of Raccoon City, and of course, like some digital downloads and stuff like that. But I actually posted a picture in your Discord. I rearranged my shelf that's behind me in my office, and I posted I've got my Resident Evil 2 remake statue and my Resident Evil 3 remake statue together with my Resident Evil 4 controller and my Resident Evil 7 collector's edition as well. So I got a nice little setup going on. Yeah, I'm a huge fan, and I'm really excited because the game looks amazing. I hear it's not too long. The original version of Resident Evil 3 wasn't very long either. So this one, I hear people are beating this game in 6 to 8 hours, which is right up my alley. These games are built to be replayed a bunch anyway, so it's not like you really need, a 20, 30-hour game. But this one comes with a multiplayer mode. It's called Project Resistance, and it's a 4v1 asymmetrical type of multiplayer. So I'm really excited because I downloaded the beta, but I wasn't able to actually play. I just didn't, that time that they had the beta, it just didn't line up with my game time. I mean, I got to play Mad Hazard, I got to play NASCAR Heat. I can't be playing a beta, But I'm really
You're going to be downloading other demos you can't play.
Hey, I downloaded the Final Fantasy VII demo as well.
Do it for 200.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we'll see. I don't know. I didn't do 2 for 200, so I like to use them for milestones. But so I'm pretty excited. I got my collector's edition a day early. Technically, all the GameStops are closed around here, and I just kept spam calling them. I'm like, hey, I got a collector's edition. It's there. I was getting ready to call the corporate office to try to figure out what am I going to do because I can't not play it, but that's $200 on a collector's edition. I don't want to lose it. I don't want, I'm kind of worried. This is unknown territory where we're at right now. So that being said, I finally got a hold of somebody. He's like, yeah, I'll be in the store for a couple hours today. Come on by. I'll give it to you a day early. So I was pretty excited.
You got a good deal.
Yep. I'm stoked.
Yeah, very good deal. Yeah, that seems to be going. And I have a question here for you because I'm not a big Resident Evil player. I find them quite intense. Where does this sit in the scope of, I've got 2 here, I've got 7 here. I'm not worried about the others at this point in time. Is this better 3? Should I be playing this one, or am I good with what I've got here with 2 and 7?
Well, have you played 2 or 7? Because I know you said before that the really intense games aren't really your thing.
Yeah, I played 2. I haven't quite finished it yet because I find it quite intense. I enjoy 7 more, I think. I haven't quite finished 7 either. So, yeah.
Well, 3 is going to be more action based than either of those. The original version was more action based, and that's one of the big complaints I'm hearing from reviewers is that this one's a little more fast paced and a little more linear than Resident Evil 2, a lot less backtracking. So I think that honestly 3 might be, up your alley, but it's going to be intense. So if Mr. X and the family from Resident Evil 7, if those are a problem for you, those ever-present, almost unkillable enemies, well, those ideas all came from the original version of Resident Evil 3, where Nemesis was just this ever-present, always chasing after you big enemy that you couldn't technically kill till the end of the game.
I remember playing the original Resident Evil 3. I played a lot of these on their original consoles. I own them all on the PlayStation, all the ones that are on the PlayStation currently, like on the PlayStation 4 and 3. But I haven't played them yet, so I got to get on that. But I played them all on the ones on their original consoles.
Perfect. Well, let's go. Let's go over to the other one because I mean, you touched on it there, Daryl, but it's a current trend at the moment that things are coming out early, and many listeners would already have access to Final Fantasy VII at this point, or within the next day or two. It's been dropping early as well for the same reason. So, Seagull, are you anticipating this Final Fantasy VII remake? Are you surprised it actually happened? Well, the first part happened anyway.
You know, I'm not shocked at this point in time due to the fact that for some reason remakes are kind of a thing.
Because they're awesome.
Yeah, they are. They bring an oldie, an old classic into a new light. It's great. And I always wanted to play a CGI rendered Final Fantasy VII because like I'm really big into like Cloud and Sephiroth's battle theme. So the moment they get to that final episode, which God knows how long that'll be, I can't wait to just see them just do shit out, like go sword fight in 3D. But I'm not buying the game straight up. I'm waiting for all the episodes to come out, so I'm probably never gonna play
Yeah,
it.
that is a good point. Being only the first part. No, Daryl, Final Fantasy. We touched on it before, having the time and stuff. Is this interest you at all? You said you downloaded the demo, but does it interest you or not?
This one is going to be action based.
Yes.
Oh yeah. So unfortunately, me, patron Levi, and my co-host T-Bird all have ours paid off and pre-ordered at the same
Oh.
GameStop, and it's very possible we're not going to be able to pick them up yet. We're still trying to figure that one out.
You did?
Yeah, we've already got that taken care of. So Final Fantasy VII, I played the fool out of as a kid, and I have the PS4 version, which I haven't loaded up actually. I was because you can put the little push button codes in because it's the PC port.
Yeah, you could fast forward it. You could
Yeah.
do all that stuff.
So years ago, and JT, you might remember this because I used to before I moved, I had a treadmill set up in my studio at my last place, and that was my treadmill game. So I'd get on my treadmill and I'd try to run for an hour, 30 minutes to an hour, or at least a good brisk jog. And you can't really play a lot of games while you're running; it throws your equilibrium off. So what I would do is I'd try to pick games that didn't require a lot. So all the Telltale games, things like that, I would burn through on my treadmill. And Final Fantasy VII is one of those that I was doing on there.
Yeah, because that version of Final Fantasy VII, they you could get the platinum in a very short amount of time because of those cheats.
Yep.
And no shame. I would use those cheats too. I have the game on my account, but I think Horizon came out, so I kind of just stopped playing it for that. But yeah, when I continue it, I'm going to be using cheats too. No, I've already played the game. And this is the inferior version. This is the Steam port. It's trash.
I knew you were going to get that in somewhere. So good. Okay. Well, look, whatever you're looking for, listeners, there's something. They're the two big ones, though. I think so. It'll be interesting to see. Now, I thought what we could do today, it was actually Seagull's suggestion, and we've never really touched it. But I thought we could take a look at backlogs, and we're not going to just list a list of games that we have here to play or something like that. But I wanted to take more of a look at maybe what the backlog means, how it affects the way you choose what to play, and does it feel like a pressure to you? I guess here today, or do you just not care at all? Because the more I read, like I know gamers love to whinge, but a lot of them seem to love this idea of this backlog anchor around their neck. They like this downward pressure on them or something, that they have all this stuff. And I'm just interested to see if you guys feel that, or if you sort of don't care, or how it sort of affects you. So maybe we could start with you, Seagull, because I mean, you are a completionist to a degree, I suppose we can say. So, what does the backlog mean to you? Do you feel this pressure to finish these games that you have stacked up now?
I'm not going for 100% completion rate account. I'm just gonna give you that straight up. That's too much work. I do not, in my mind, it's kind of impossible for me to complete my backlog fully, like 100% it with the amount of time I have in my life. I have a lot of games. I think I've like the list that I put on the Darrell's event, the Backlog Beatdown. He's running a very cool event called the Backlog Beatdown. I literally put a Google Doc of, I think there was like 300 of my like 1,000 games, 800,000 games. And I don't even think I'm going to be able to 100% most of those either. But, you know, what I do is my strategy is to 100% 3 games. After I 100% 3 games, I buy a new one.
So you're sort of staying on top of it. I like that idea.
So that way I can refresh something new and get old stuff done.
Yeah. Okay, now, Darrell, I'm interested because you're similar to me. You're on a limited time or whatever else, and you also have a bit of an addiction to buying games, I feel. So, what and I know this backlog thing is important to you, and I know this year I've heard you say as well that the fantastic event you're running is curtailing your purchasing to some degree. But then you've also listed today that you've got Resident Evil 3 and Final Fantasy 7 there coming in. So, what does it mean to you, like this backlog, though? Are you like, I'm sure you've come to the same realization that there is not enough time left to finish all the games you own, but does it weigh on you?
Oh, absolutely. What's crazy is I bought every single game with the intention of beating it. Maybe not so much 100%ing or platinuming, but I buy my games with the intention to complete, to roll credits. And I sit back and I look at all these games and I listen to all these gaming podcasts and I hear people talk about games. I'm just like, I get so excited. Like, oh, I want to play that, but that's in my backlog. I got to knock that one out. And then I see all these games coming out and I'm like, oh, I get really excited. I'm like, man, I want to play that. I want to beat that game. And so I find myself in this weird limbo of so many options and so much of a backlog that I almost don't choose what to play. Like, it's just, it, that's why I started that event, the Backlog Beatdown. And the idea was that, there's got to be some sort of consequence or I'm going to keep buying games. So if I reached out to our community and I included all of my friends who have their podcasting communities. I'm like, hey, tell your people, let's run a little contest. Let's kind of keep each other honest and let's play these games we keep accumulating. And let's actually cheer each other on, because I equate it to like working out. I like to work out, but if I don't have a steady workout partner, those days where I kind of feel a little sluggish, I don't work out as hard or I don't work out at all. But when I got somebody in the weight room who maybe on my off day is having their on day, that's like, okay, they push me, I push them, we challenge and encourage each other, talk a little crap along the way and have a good time. And so I treat my backlog the same way. Like, I want to play all these games, but I'll surely die before I get through 50% of them. And that hasn't stopped me 100% from buying them. But, it's like, I was like, I want to play all these games, but then Resident Evil keeps putting a new game out, so I gotta get it. And then Daymare, 1998, that's a Resident Evil inspired game. I mean, I gotta get it. And then I bought 2 versions of it, and then it's like, oh yeah, well, I've already beat Batman, but I kind of want to platinum this one, so it's technically still in the backlog, so I kind of keep going back to it. But Final Fantasy VII remake's coming out. I mean, I got to get that, So it is an anchor, and it weighs me down. And I sit back and I'm like, I want to play all of them. I want to stop buying and start playing, and then I'm good for a little while. There's no discipline. I wish I was like JT could be like, oh man, I'm gonna beat 3 and then I'm gonna buy 1. I'm gonna beat 3. I'm like, oh dude, I beat like 4 or 5 games. I'm gonna buy like 10.
Yeah.
Another thing that may weigh you is the fact that you're a family man, and after a while, it kind of feels like you've wasted that money because you're not touching it, and you could have put it onto some more valuable resources for your family.
Yeah, like games
I
for my
can see
kids.
that being a problem too for you.
I think that's a valid point, Seagull, because I think there's a lot tight.
It's not for me, but for you,
Well, I think it is
I can see
more
it.
than you think because I find from reading a lot that there is the people that do seem to keep well control of their backlog, if you like, and their purchases. They very much see the acquisition of games at new release or the buying of all these games as a waste of money. I often hear that and I read that, and I think, I mean, circumstances are obviously, all in all different. And I do have a question here for you, Seagull, about something else, but I just want to, while we're on this, I want to ask Darrell now. So my attitude to this is that I like to have a choice to play whatever I like at the time. So therefore, if I buy it, but perhaps I don't play it, that week or something, like maybe the intention was there, but I now have the choice anyway in the library. Does that appeal to you? Do you find that you're picking this stuff up just so you'll have the choice of playing it as opposed to the actual desire at the time to play it?
I mean, yes, sometimes, but for me, it's if I see it and I get excited, my mind is I'm going to play this. Like this is maybe not today, but I'm going to play it. And the biggest thing is for me, it's always like there's certain sections of the day that I'm allowed to play certain types of games. Okay, so like my kids are still relatively young. So for me, I can't play a bunch of horror games or a bunch of ultra violent stuff, lots of blood and gore and cussing and whatever, you know? So I got to make sure I have a very healthy selection of family friendly games in my library, or things that I can play in front of the children. Well, then I got to have the games that I like, so when they're all asleep and the wife's asleep, that's when I play those games. But then in between those two, the middle is what really gets kind of dicey because it's like I have this addiction, if you want to call it that, to popping trophies and getting, like platinums and like
Don't we all?
that progression, you know? So it's like, well, I got to play the family friendly stuff with the kids. I got to play my stuff whenever everyone's asleep. But then in the middle of that, I've got to constantly be getting trophies and achievements. So that's where all my spam comes in, So it's like I've got like options across the board. And then I even take that a step farther to say, well, I got to make sure I have something on the Vita for when I'm maybe not at the house, So I got to have spam on the Vita. I got to have spam on the
Yeah.
consoles. I got to have family friendly stuff on the consoles. And then I got to have my stuff on the consoles. But then wait a second. I got to have my stuff on the Vita too, because after I get my spam trophies, well, then if I'm still on the Vita, I got to make sure I have something that I want to play as well. So it's complicated.
I like that. I'm going to come to you in a second on this one as well, Seagull. I think because I think in a way your lifestyle also, from what you're saying there, it dictates what you can play, so it does provide structure. I think a lot of our listeners are perhaps guided by their own choices, in that they don't have an out, external. They may not have kids yet or families or whatever, so they're a little bit more open, and I think that's a danger as well. I think that leads to that sort of thing. But what I was going to ask you, Seagull, is you've already mentioned you have a list. Like, I find this fascinating because people that seem to, worry about this backlog, they seem to be making lists. I think some of them spend longer making lists than playing games sometime. Now, I'm not saying you're doing that, but what is this attraction? Do you have this attraction as well, like to make lists, to plan this?
They're not planning lists. They're just like a list of games that I own
Mm,
that I'm probably going, like the ones that I would most likely go after. It's like the list of where all my favorite genres are, like my RPGs, my favorite shooters, my favorite third-person shooters, my favorite action adventure games, my first party. But like, I don't like the things that I have that I don't have on the list, like things like Battlefield Bad Company. They're games that like I know I'm not going to 100% them because of time and the fact that they're so old that the servers are going to go down anyways. So why would I care? And then I have like Nintendo Switch games
mm.
on the list too. I don't own an Xbox anymore, so I just cut that off the list. But I do put like all of my
Yeah.
favorite stuff on there, and then I have like 800 games of stuff that I may or may not get to. But in general, I use lists just to see what I have, like the things that I want to do. And I complete 3 of those games, any 3, doesn't matter what order. I just buy a new game. And what I mean by complete is 100%. I don't
Mm.
I don't buy a new game until any three backlog games are 100%. And granted, I have more time because I don't have a family. And I still do college part time, and I do work. I do have that space, that 5 hour space where I am able to dedicate it towards things like, well, it's more now because of the coronavirus, but
Yeah.
I have that spot where I can just say 5 hours to gaming, 2 hours to Netflix.
That's why I think it's such an interesting topic at the moment, because I mean, a lot of people around the world have more time now, potentially to game. There's things they can't do, and the longer this goes on, more people are going to find their disposable income for entertainment also is going to go down, potentially more than it ever has in their life. So the backlog suddenly becomes a far more valid thing, to have a look at what we've got. And I think one thing that I always surprises me, and I see Levi does it, and I don't think you do it, Darrell, from what you've said here. And you do it in a way, Seagull, but he's actually planning games ahead of time. Like next month I'm going to play this or I'm going to play that. And, I've always had this like console let approach where, like I have multiple PS4s and I don't know what I'm going to play when I sit down. It's just, well, whatever's on the bar, or I might just play something else, but I don't know from day to day. And I think that creates a hell of a lot of games in different stages, and also why you come back a year later and finish something, I think too, and just because and I'm sure you can relate to this, Darrell, but that's never really bothered me, and I find it interesting that I would always feel that I'm confined if I was only doing what Seagull's doing and playing 3 games at once and 1 game. So I know he's doing that. Do you obviously you don't feel confined because you just play a bit of everything, Darrell? Is that?
Yep. It's I'm not, like there's like very very minute times where I feel like I really want to start something, but I'm in the middle of something. But that usually is when I'm in the home stretch. Like for example, Controls DLC just came out, and like I really really want to play it, but like the day it came out, I was finishing up Doom 3, and I was at the last hour or two of the game, and I had a little window to play. So I was like, you know what? I could jump, but if I jump on the Control, I probably won't come back to Doom. So I just went ahead and knocked it out. And then rather than go for the platinum, I'm just like, oh, I beat it. You're done. Moving on. So, but typically, no. I mean, you can look at my trophy list and be like, yeah, he doesn't really stick to much of anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. Now, why don't we come back? Because you mentioned it before, and we'll start with Seagull here. I mean, all 3 of us play spam to maybe varying degrees, but we all do. And one of the things that I love to read are these people that don't partake in this, and they're like, well, of course you don't finish what you have because you're spending hours playing these games. They might only take 1 hour, but you're playing so many of them. It's just hours and hours and hours and hours. So what do you think about that?
And yeah, I do it perfectly.
Yes, that's right. So what do you think about that, Seagull? Why do you play these games if they're just sucking up the time? Like, why?
I do it when I play grindy games like Mass Effect 2 or like when I was playing Mass Effect 2. I like the last time I was on, I was on Platinum 175 and I was playing Mass Effect 2 and I was coming up on 200 and I was like, I got a whore. I was whoring games while I was playing Mass Effect 2. I play it during, like, I only really whore when I am playing a really grindy game or a game that is basically has to be more than 30 hours, or the game has to be a 6 out of 10 or more in difficulty. That's when I whore. I do not whore for something that is how should I say this? Like Uncharted, because that's a 5 out of 10. And most of them are like 4 3 out of 10s in difficulties. I do not do it with Ratchet and Clanks. I don't do it with Jack post debug. I don't do it with any of those type of games, but I do it with these more grindy games because it keeps my mental sane.
Okay, and then Darrell, I'm always interested to hear because I mean, you're a trophy hunter. You play a reasonable amount of spam, but but then you don't play a lot either. Like you seem to have some sort of a balance. So what's the attraction? It's just purely the trophies, and does the time factor that you spend on these games? How do you feel that time, about that time maybe being invested into some of these other games that you have?
Yeah, the time matters. I mean, so if you look at a spam game, it's like, yeah, it was only 20, 30 minutes. But when you do it 6 times, well, now you've had a lengthy gaming session that you could have played something else. So for me, I typically, and this is subject to change as soon as we're done playing the podcasting. But for me, I don't region stack, at least not yet. And I know
I am
I have a EU account. I got really close to region stacking. As a matter of fact, you were really encouraging me and paving that way for me to region stack. And it's not that I don't want to, but it's just that's the threshold, I guess. That's where I haven't gone that far yet.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You just don't want to be like tricky.
Well, no, I don't. It's not so much that. It's just that it's kind of like I use like I said before, I use my spam is kind of like to get me from from one game to the other, or get me from I'm sitting around playing Minecraft with the kids, and that's great, but I platinumed that years ago. So it's like, oh, I'm playing a little bit of Fortnite or Call of Duty Warzone with the kids, and it's like, okay, I'm not getting any trophies for this. So maybe when it's not my turn, I whip out or I got 30 minutes to an hour before work, I'll kind of chip away at one of these little spam games. And so, or, like I said before, like you told me about Red Death one night. So like I downloaded it while I was editing our podcast, and I'm just sitting there listening back to the show, throwing a few edits, putting a few sound effects, give me a couple trophies. So I try to incorporate it into the time that I can't sit there and concentrate on something I really enjoy. And typically, the reason why I don't play every rat game or every sometimes you game is because I use them as fillers.
I'm glad you brought that up because I think, I play more of these games than anyone here, I'm sure, but I think there's a lot to be said for that. Like I often, when I'm listening to podcasts, I play, but the predominant reason I play these games is because I'm just too tired. My brain's too tired to focus on something because of work or life or whatever. And rather than just veg out in front of the television and be passive, which perhaps would be more relaxing, I'm not sure, with some of these games, I choose to play these games, but I never play these games, and I have a lot of respect for people that do because I think it must be a massive grind on yourself to play these this way, where they're just playing them because they want the trophies. They're playing one after the other, and they're awake and everything else, and it's like a massive wall they've got to get through. So for me, it's just that.
That was me for a little while.
Yeah, if I wasn't playing these games now, I probably wouldn't be playing anything because I'm not going to be playing Death Stranding at the moment. I'm not going to be playing 14 because there's just too much going on there, and I'm as I say, I'm focusing on other stuff. Or I'm doing other stuff. So for me, I find them perfect in that. So I don't necessarily buy that argument, although I hear it a lot about how much time is being wasted because I think it's time that potentially I wouldn't use the game anyway. So I think that's my position on it. I'm very interested though, because so many people on my list are playing these games all the time. And I wonder, I sort of wonder how much of it's tied up in the leaderboard, which is another topic, or how much of it's tied up in they're just tired like me, because I don't know. But anyway, that's another topic. Before we wrap out of this, the central thing that I think that holds most gamers back, it definitely holds me back from the backlog, is FOMO. It's the fear of missing out. I think this is predominantly the reason why the backlog gets out of control. So, you do have this system, Seagull, but do you feel like, you said you're not going to pick up Final Fantasy VII straight away. Have you found a way to deal with this, pressure of wanting to play the new stuff, or do you just not feel it?
Well, for one, I don't feel it. I mean, I'm on a PS3 game right now. Come on, I don't feel it. And I also, in my mind, when I see a new game, I'm like, that's gonna always be there, even if it's like worth $500 because it's a rarity. It's still gonna be there, right? It's still gonna be in existence, and I can always just pick it up in the bargain bin at some shop if it isn't, right? Like, it's always gonna be there. Like, the only thing that gets on my nerves is online servers. That's the thing. So like, I look at a game and I'm like, and when I see online servers, I just kind of say, I'm either going to get this done right now or I'm just going to let it go. And I don't miss out on anything. It doesn't affect me as much as others.
I think that's a good point. Yeah, it's a very valid point, especially, I mean, with fighting games, it's a fantastic example. Racing sometimes as well. If you can get in early, it's going to be a lot easier than trying to get in late as the people skill up. But Darrell, I'm interested here in you. Have you just given up to FOMO? I mean, you run a podcast, so you do have to be playing games. You can't just play the one game for the whole year and that's it. Have you given up, or do you have a strategy to keep control?
No, well, I would like to say that I don't, experience that, but then I had a conversation with a listener today or this week, and it was about Resident Evil 3. It's like I'm in fear of not being able to get my collector's edition. And it's like, well, are you just going to buy digital because you got to play the game, And it's like, that's somebody who knows me, knows my interest. But like, that is the precedent that I've set, is that I'm ResidentDarrell. I'm the I play Resident Evil games, Like I can't not play it when it comes out. I can't not talk about it when we record the LootBros this weekend.
Yeah.
And it's like a subconscious thing. It's not even in the front of my mind. It's just that like that's the standard. That's what it is. So yeah, I do believe there is a little bit of that fear of missing out, or as a content creator, quote unquote, as a podcaster, it's the fear of not being on the front, I guess, the cutting edge of things. Like I don't play every new game that comes out, but I play a fair share, and I feel like that there's conversation there. There's things that it's kind of my job a little bit, to be on it. So somewhere in there is a bit of, I don't want to miss out, but somewhere in there is a little bit of, I feel like I have a responsibility to do it as well. So what's that, jack of all trades, master of none? That's kind of, I'll just be not good at anything, but play a little bit of everything.
Or good at everything, but not great at everything.
I like that.
Because you have respectable stuff on your trophy list, despite your really bad completion rate.
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
You got Umbrella Corps, you got Justice 2. I'm just listing games now, but like you do have those games that I'd say you do have skill. You can get these harder games done.
Yeah, I don't have enough life to no life.
Yep. Yeah, that's the issue everyone has. We have a time, and then the limit's up.
Yeah, I like that. That's very
Fuck
true.
you,
So,
God.
so there you go, listeners. It's just I really wanted to do that, not just list out sort of games in backlogs, because someone opens their mouth and says the word backlog, and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, here we go. Every game that's ever been released, and and you're like, no, come on. And it's just like, it's nice to actually just talk about the concepts behind it more. And before we move across to the shout outs today, I'd like to leave you with the immortal words of a
my God,
the man who
no,
has time to
please.
play everything, we would think. And he says, Seagull, he says, you can't play them all. But, I would like to tack on CJ's words at the end. Well, I'm sure as hell going to try. So why don't we move?
He does say that.
He does, I know. So why don't we move across to
crazy mad lad
to some platinum shout outs for us. Now, I'm going to read them here, guys, but please feel free to jump in if you've got anything to say about the game in particular. We've only got a few this time to get through from the PlayStation 4 community. And of course, listeners, if you have been listening,
I put mine on Push2Plat.
Yes,
the Discord.
I've got it here. If you have been listening, you think, I'd like a shout out as well. I've got some spam, or I've got some quality games, and I want to get a bit of a ego kick. Then why not post it in our Platinum Club, and you'll get a read each week, and you can do that on the PS4 community, or you can do that in the Discord. And we're starting here with Lloyd Christmas. Neither of these games I actually know, so I don't know if you two know these games, but Dead by Daylight and Killing Floor 2 back at 100%.
So. Killing Floor 2 is such a good
Killing
game.
Floor 2.
Yeah, that's one that JT friggin' ditched me on. We were supposed to be boosting together.
I did boost it with you.
Yeah, until you got yours.
I finished all. I got you
yours
all
and you
my trophies.
You hear
I
that?
got
TJ?
you.
He's the type that gets his and leaves you hanging.
No, I got him all the boostable online trophies. There were 2. The rest of it's all solo. I had to do it. I did it solo.
Yeah, just hanging out here, lonely and unfulfilled.
Well, I also did say like a few times that if you make time, I will play co-op with you, not as a for fun. For me, it would be for fun. For you, it'd be for the level 20 that you could solo.
Excellent. Well, we're not here to save your face now, Seagull. You've stepped in that. You'll have to deal with that later. But congratulations, Lloyd Christmas, on the back to 100%. That sounds like a massive achievement. Then the East Side. Now, the East Side is still lost in Final Fantasy 12, which is fantastic for me to see. So it's good to see it's taking him some time as well. But number 636, I think many of us have experience with this game, Stretch. And he says the surprisingly difficult for a 1-hour plat. And then number 637, Doom Eternal. Very, very awesome. Are you on that as well, Darrell? Are you going to be on that as well?
No, actually, it's one of the pre-orders I actually didn't pick up. So I didn't finish 2016, and I finished Doom 3, and I was like gonna finish 2016 and then pick up Doom Eternal, and then I just didn't. And as a matter of fact, like I've referred to Levi earlier in the show, he reached out to me and he played it and he goes, "Hey man, don't, if you didn't pick yours up, I'll let you just borrow mine," because he actually didn't love the game as much as he thought he would.
Then Olcero, he's the first. Again, no number, sir, so I'm not sure, but I know you're getting up there. It's a high number. The first achiever from Random Heroes Gold Edition, which is actually the Rata Platter of the week. And I imagine neither of you two have probably played it yet, but it actually plays a little bit like Devious Dungeon.
Oh man!
So if you enjoyed Devious Dungeon, it's similar, easier and shorter, but.
Ooh.
Yeah, this is much shorter, about an hour, and it's a bit easier as well. But the same sort of idea. It's a fun game. Congratulations on first achiever there, sir. And then Ed the Shed 2014 number. Oh, good, some high quality spam here. Number 76, Milo's Quest, the NA stack. Takes all of 5 minutes, I believe. We all know about that one. Look, I even know about that one on Xbox.
Cool.
That's how good that one is. And then number 77 and 78, Breeder Homegrown, Director's Cut EU and NA. It's also some high quality spam. And then the man of the hour, we've been lucky to listen to him today, DatOneSeagull, number 242, Metagal, the Asian Vita. But we're really looking forward to when this Mass Effect 3 gets in here, Seagull, in the coming weeks or month or so.
I will. I'm not that far off. I just had to do Insanity playthrough and then it's done.
So look, I'd like to thank you both for joining me today. I knew it would be a little bit dicey, potentially a little bit on the rails, but I think we've kept it pretty above board, which is it's an achievement. We should feel proud about that.
Get platinum for that.
Yeah, look, I think so. But can we move an amendment towards that in the future? Thank you in the rulebook. But as I said, I'd like to thank you both. Now, DatOneSeagull, if we're trying to find you, if the listeners are trying to reach out to you, how could they?
I'm on Discord at DatOneSeagull. I am on PSN as DatOneSeagull. That's it.
And Darrell, I mean, we could always find you at the fantastic Loot Bros that are releasing on Monday. I wanted to congratulate you for pushing me out of that slot. That's fantastic. Thank you, sir. You're obviously on top of your edit, and now you've really shown me up. So, but where could we find you if our listeners are trying to find you?
You can find me on the PSN at ResidentDarrell. You can find me on Twitch at ResidentDarrell. I'm going to start streaming more. I'm really terrible at it and very self-aware. So if you're interested in a really bad time, my life is a B movie. So just kind of.
We had that one good stream where we got that person that was from across the pond to play Call of Duty Ghost with us.
That was the only good one I was ever a part of. But you can find me at the LootBros Podcast on all good podcast providers. And I have launched a solo show called 2236. It is a survival horror podcast. That one's a little more catered to my interest. And I will be bringing on various guests from time to time. But the first several episodes, I brought on an ex-trophy whore, Donnie. He's a good buddy of mine, and we just have so much fun when the two of us can actually get together and chat. I really love that dude. We
Donnie's the best.
we goof off so much. Like it's really bad for both of us and our wives because when we like, I like to think me and CJ get along real good, and when we do shows together, it can get off the rails. But I think Donnie is a step above that, but not in the goofy fashion. Like me and Donnie get together, and it's just a bunch of 12-year-olds hanging out, just making, I don't know. It's a nonsense. It's just more nonsense than anything.
Yeah.
So I released a bunch of shows with me and Donnie. Some of them were older. It's a project that I started a while back and didn't really have the time to give it the TLC that I thought it deserved. And now I'm making time for that. So if you're into horror games, there'll be some Resident Evil 3 content coming on there soon.
That's excellent, yeah. And I mean, I just second that as well. I mean, many of the listeners know we work closely together with the LootBros and Proven Gamer Network as well. And look, it's a fantastic mix. I think we've finally all started to reach our stride. We're all doing slightly different things, so we can provide a little bit of something different. And I'm actually looking forward to, in the future, if I can twist their arms like I've managed to do with yours for some time, Darrell, to possibly get Frosty and T-Bird on as well at some stage. And I believe there's another guy, but he never turns up, so I probably don't need to worry. Is that correct?
Yeah, the ghost.
Yeah.
The ghost. Yes. And we'll get the mute microphone in for that one. Perfect. So listeners, if you're trying to find the show, it's available on all good podcast providers. If you want to reach out and say hi to us, you can do so on Twitter at push2plat, push the number 2plat. Come and jump in the Discord. Say hi if you like to myself, Mindy, or Joe, or the wonderful community as well. If you want to email us, you can at push2plat@gmail.com. So wherever you be at this tumultuous time in the world, I hope that you remain safe. I hope that you can still find enjoyment in gaming. And look, maybe even something in the backlog to pull out for the weekend. Have a wonderful week, and thank you. Thank you, Seagull and Darrell.
Thank you, CJ.
Push to Plat Podcast would like to thank our Patreon producers, Zador VP and Olsero, along with all of our other Patreons. They provide us the opportunity to bring you this weekly show. If you like what you hear, why don't you check us out on Patreon at Push to Plat Podcasts.